Caligula, no! Just have to wait it out because he doesn't fucking listen to me ever. Hey, it's Sue in the restricted section. Today I thought I would do my November wrap-up and then also do my GobbleAthon wrap-up, which would be part of my November wrap-up anyway. The first book that I finished this month was Dawn by Octavia Butler. Megan and I both read this and we did a review of it. It's kind of more of a discussion. It is spoilery, so, you know, watch it or not, but I'll link it down below if you're interested. And this is about a woman who wakes up in in an isolation room, and she's been asleep for, I think it was like a couple hundred years. After this nuclear war that killed most people on Earth, this race of aliens saved many people, including her, and they're wanting to sort of repopulate and rebuild Earth together with the humans. I really enjoyed it. I ended up giving it 4 stars. I'm excited to read the next one. I think that I'll probably like the next one even better because Dawn ended off on a pretty interesting note. Then the next book I read was The Girl on the Train by Paula Hawkins. I also did a review of this one, which I'll link down below if you want to hear more. This is a thriller about a woman who she's an alcoholic. Her life is kind of a mess. She sees this couple when she rides the train every day, and she has this like perfect picture of them in her head of who they are and how their relationship is. And one day the woman in that couple goes missing, and she was in the area at the time of this woman's disappearance, and she thinks she saw something that might solve this mystery of what happened to this woman, but she was drunk and blacked out and doesn't remember what she saw. So throughout the book she's kind of trying to piece it together and figure out what happened, and it was okay. I gave it 2 stars. I think I'm just not super into thrillers, but it was really fast-paced, quick read, and I don't know, looking back I'd maybe bump it up to like 2.5, maybe even 3 stars because there were some redeeming qualities in it, but overall it just wasn't for me. And the next book I finally finished. I started this book in July and then put it down for several months and picked it back up again this month and just finally got through it, and that is Consider the Lobster by David Foster Wallace. This is a collection of essays on just various topics. David Foster Wallace is clearly a very good writer and a very intelligent man, or was, unfortunately. He has passed away. But footnotes really just were rough. Yeah, there are times when there's like a whole page, like this whole page is a footnote. Why? Why? Footnotes are just annoying in general, I think, but the essays themselves, I don't know what my favorite one was. Probably the first one, which was Big Red Sun, and it's about the porn industry. I found that really interesting, and it was written, I think he wrote it, let me see, he has the year, it was 1998, and so I'd be interested to see how the porn industry has changed since then, because it was pretty bad now, or pretty bad then, and he made a comment at one point that things just have to keep getting more and more shocking, I guess, to keep people interested. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how things have progressed. And then the one essay that was really rough to get through was Authority and American Usage. Parts of it were really interesting, I think, but some of it was pretty boring. He's talking about these specific usage journals, and I'd never heard of any of them or really cared all that much about them, but I don't know, I do find language very interesting, and I did like parts of it. And then there was another essay called Up Simba, which was it's about John McCain back when he ran for president back in 2000, I think it was. And you'd think that it wouldn't really be relevant now, but it was kind of more about what it was like being on the campaign trail, and so it still was pretty relevant, and it was interesting. And it was also, I think, relevant to like this past election because Some of the things that John McCain represented, I feel like were similar to Bernie Sanders, which is kind of weird. Not in that they had the same views or anything on politics, but just what they represented to the people that supported them. Because I guess a lot of young people supported John McCain, which I don't remember. Year 2000, I was in 8th grade or something, or 7th grade, so I didn't care about politics back then. So yeah, and he talks about in that essay too how like the GOP, I don't think they necessarily undermined John McCain like they did like the DNC did to Bernie Sanders, but they did definitely support George W. Bush over John McCain and pushed for his nomination instead and got their way. But anyway, overall, I did like this. I think I gave it 3.5 or maybe 4 stars. I don't remember now. I might check out some more of his at some point. I'm not really like chomping at the bit to go pick up more of his stuff or anything because those footnotes, man, those footnotes are rough. But anyway, and then the rest of the books I read this month were for GobbleAthon. And I think this might be the best I've ever done at a readathon, actually. So I'm pretty proud of myself. Even though Graham from Mega Man Chief Fan is the one who hosted this readathon, and he read Circles Around Me. He reads so much, it's crazy. I don't know how he does it. The first book that I finished for GobbleAthon was The Weather of the Heart by Madeleine L'Engle. I don't have my copy anymore because I lent it to Megan, but this was a collection of poetry, and one of the challenges was to read a book of poetry, and it wasn't, I didn't like it. All of the poems, or most of the poems, were very, very obviously about God, which is fine, but it was like I was reading gospel hymns, and it just wasn't enjoyable. I didn't really care for her writing. I thought it was just very meh. So didn't care for that one, but it was a quick short read, so that's alright. And then the next book that I finished was In the Shadow of the Boneen by Vatty Ratner. And this completed the challenge of reading a book that is foreign to you because this is set in Cambodia. The author was originally from Cambodia, and it's a semi-autobiographical book, and it takes place during the genocide that happened in Cambodia it was 1975 to 79, where I think almost 2 million people were either executed or starved to death or were worked to death. Vatty Ratner, the author, was I think 5 years old during that genocide, and she was a refugee, came to America, actually came to Missouri, and this was really, really good. I really enjoyed it. I gave it 4.5 stars. The only things that I didn't like about it were that the writing is super flowery at points, especially in the beginning, and I like flowery writing most of the time, but this was even a little bit much for me sometimes. Also, in the book, the main character is 7, and the voice was far more mature than than any 7-year-old, but I kind of got the sense that maybe it was like her looking back, like this 7-year-old character is grown up now and looking back and telling her story, maybe. I'm not sure if that's how it was supposed to be, but yeah, I really enjoyed it. It was just a really beautiful story and, you know, heartbreaking, and I didn't know much at all about this Cambodian genocide before I read this, and ended up looking up more about it as well. So yeah, I thought this was great, and I would recommend it unless you're super not into flowery writing at all, and then you won't like it. And then the next book I completed was Oranges Are Not the Only Fruit by Jeanette Winterson, and this was for the challenge of reading a book with a Thanksgiving word in the title. And this is also semi-autobiographical, and it's about a girl who grows up in a very evangelical Christian household. Mainly her mother is very overbearingly Christian, I'd say. Then when she's a teenager, she kind of realizes that she likes girls and not boys, and so that causes some problems in her relationship with her mother and with other people, members of the church. And I'd heard a lot about this book. This is pretty hyped on BookTube, and I gotta say it didn't really live up to the hype for me. I thought her writing was just okay. Like, I wasn't too into her writing style. And it could possibly be that maybe I didn't get a lot of it, because there is a lot of references to religion, obviously, in it. Like, each chapter is actually named after like a different book in the Bible. At least I think they're all books in the Bible. I'm not sure, and that leads me to my point that I don't know very much about the Bible. For someone who grew up in the Bible Belt, I know very little about it, and so it could be that I just didn't really connect with it that much because of that. She also cuts to, like, she'll be talking about her story, and then there'll be like a few paragraphs telling like a fairy tale that's like obviously reflects what's happening in the main character's life as well, and like I didn't really like that. I don't know. That's all I have to say about it. But yeah, I gave it 3.5 stars. I still did enjoy the story, but I just didn't like it as much as I was expecting to like it. Maybe I just had too high of expectations. The next book I finished was Why the Last Man, and this is book 1, and it's called Unmanned, and this is by Brian K. Vaughan, Paya Guerra, and Jose Martin Jr. And this is a graphic novel, and in this book, something happens and every mammal with a Y chromosome dies, except for this one man, whose name is Yorick, and his pet monkey, Ampersand. And no one knows why they survived. There's not as many women in politics as there are men, and so like the government has kind of like in chaos, because most of the government officials, including the president and the vice president and several other high-ranking officials, have all died. There's also like this group of sort of feminazis who are like glad that all the men are dead and are like, yeah, and they just sort of like kill anyone who gets in their way, and now they've run across him and they're hunting him down because they want to kill him because they don't want any men left on the planet. And yeah, I really liked this. I actually already ordered the second book on Thrift Books because I was like, yeah, I want to continue with that story. I thought it was really interesting. I did dock some points for use of the word retarded because I don't like that. And also, I don't know, I was a little like iffy while I was reading it because I was like, is this feminist or not? But I finally decided it is, because I feel like that he's kind of pointing out the ridiculousness of thinking women aren't capable, or the ridiculousness of how, you know, how there aren't as many women in politics and stuff like this. So I don't know, we'll see. I'm interested to see where the story goes, and I gave this first volume, or this first book, 4 stars. And then the last book that I completed was The Apprentice, My Life in the Kitchen by Jacques Pepin, and this completed the challenge of reading, what was it? Reading a nonfiction book. Yeah, Jacques Pepin, if you weren't aware, is a chef, and I used to watch him on TV when I was little. He was on PBS. I watched him mostly with Julia Child, but I do remember I watched some of his other, because he had a show that was just him, and then he also had a show, which I didn't remember this until I read it in the book, that he had a show with, he had his daughter on the show as well. I remember seeing him on PBS a lot, and I really enjoyed him, especially him and Julia Child together, because they were just really funny. But I was a little iffy on whether, I didn't know if I would enjoy this or not, because I hate cooking. I don't like doing it at all, and I'm not really much of a foodie. I do like watching some food shows. I mean, like I said, I did watch his show, and when I lived with my sister, I used to watch a fair bit of Food Network because she loved the Food Network, so I'm not that into cooking or anything, but I actually did really enjoy this. I really liked that he talked about food in a way that it sort of like reflected where he was in his life at that point. So he talks about like the food he ate as a child. When he grew up, when he was a child, it was during World War II, and so food was rationed. So you see like the kinds of things that he ate then, and then in the summers he would go live on a farm and work, like be a farmhand, and you see how that was different to what he ate living in the city with his parents. And then, you know, as he gets older and older, he talks about the different foods that he ate or that were available to him or that he prepared, whatever. But it was more than just, this is the food I like. It was like, these are the things I ate because this was you know, this was the life I was leading at the time, if that makes sense. Like it was deeper than just food. So yeah, I really ended up liking it a lot. So pleasantly surprised. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. And those were all the books I completed in November and for GobbleAthon. GobbleAthon, there were 7 challenges. I ended up completing 6 because one of the challenges was to read a book, so I did that. The one challenge I did not complete was to read a book about an animal. I had planned to read Heart of a Dog by Mikhail Bulgakov, but I did not have time to read that one. If you guys have read any of these books, let me know what you thought about them. How did your November reading go? And that's gonna be it for me. There'll be links below where you can find myself and Megan other places. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please do. And thanks everyone for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Bye!